And thanks for joining us. Over 9,500 teachers out of the 20,000 teachers who sat for the 2023 licensure examination have failed. Member of our research desk, Kofi J, has been looking at the figures and is joining us now to just have a breakdown of the latest that we're getting on that figure. Kofi, thank you for spending some time with us. And I see just behind you over 20,100 and plus, of course, writing the examination in itself, but the margin quite scary in terms of the number of people who failed. Just walk us through.
Well, so we've been looking at the data and we've tried to do some comparative analysis, and you can see it on your screen right now, trying to use a pie chart for you to understand what is going on in terms of the teacher licensure exam. Those who start for the exam, about 20,000 teachers, and this is across JHS and SHS, let me put it there. So just like the way we have accountants who take, the chartered accountant examination and become chartered accountant, that's the same way that the licensure exam is. You are a qualified teacher, but you need that license for the main aim is to attract, graduates and also to make the profession very attractive. And so this year we've had 2 exams. The first one was written in May. The results released them around June, July. And we saw the number of teachers that failed in that exam. Over 83% failed. And so if you are comparing that to this 47.4 failure, then there's some sort of significant improvement in terms of the failure rate. This, what you see is the 20,000, about 20,000 teachers who sat for the examination, and 47% of them actually failed. And we have just 52.6% of them passing. The pass rate was around 50%. And so we know that there was some sort of breakdown in terms of the examination. So you are taking what they call the core subject, and then also your elective. Elective to mean the course that probably you teach in your school. And then the core subjects, they have actually grouped into 4. So the first core subject is the general professional knowledge, and we've been doing some sort of disaggregated analysis on this. And you see that although on the general picture, about 47% of the teachers failed the licensure exams, if you look at the disaggregated level, those who took the general professional exams, just about 38.2%. That's sort of, core subject examination. We have the early childhood, the grade pedagogy, also they failed that. And then we have the primary and SHS pedagogy, also they failed that subject, about 1.9%. And then SHS, we have about 16.2% failure there. And so we begin to do some, more disaggregated analysis in terms of some selected elective subjects. Now, we chose these 4 because at the SHS level, you need to pass at least 2 of them, I think 3. You need to pass English language and mathematics for you to be able to qualify to the university. And so teachers who are teaching this 4 core subjects at both the basic level and at the SHS level must be really there in terms of the qualification. They must be up there and they must do well. So we decided to check that one as well. Integrated science, if you see anything red on your screen, that is for JHS, and blue is for SHS. So integrated science, you realize that the figure, actually the failure rate increases when you move from JHS to SHS. So JHS, it was around 1.8%, and then SHS, you are looking at more than 36% failure. And I've been looking at the WASI examination. If you look at the number of students who had less than C6, is sort of in the same region as the figures you see on your screen. English language, at the JHS level, it was higher than at the SHS level. We have 12.8% against 8.5%. And mathematics at the JHS level, 3.8%. And as you begin to increase the scale to the SHS level, you have the failure rate increasing from that 3.8% to a whopping 29.5% at the SHS level. And social studies, you can see on your screen there where we have the failure rate at the social, the JHS level around 1.5%, and at the SHS level some 11.4%. And so if you compare this very, statistics to what we had somewhere around June, July, when the first 2023 licensure examination results were released, the failure rate was somewhere around 83.5%, and now we are looking at 47.4%. So a massive or significant improvement there in terms of the number of teachers who failed the licensure examination. In the first, exams in May, we're looking around more than 16,000 teachers who sat. Currently, the one that has just been released, we are looking at more than 20,000 teachers who sat for the examination. Improvements in the number of teachers who sat for the examination and also the number of teachers who actually failed. There's some sort of massive improvement there if you compare 83.5% in some around June, July to the current 47.4% blessed. So that's the statistics for you in terms of the teacher licensure examination in 2023.
Thanks, Isaac. Let's get more on this. Joining us via Zoom is the spokesperson for the National Teaching Council, who's joining us via Zoom now, and Dennis Owusu is here with us. Thank you for your time. Peter Antie will be joining us shortly from the Institute for Education Studies on what the implications are for the education sector. But Dennis, I just want to start off with you looking at the fact that, yes, there is an improvement, but quite a significant number in terms of the failure. 47% plus. It's not something we should be celebrating, knowing that all of these people are teachers in the classrooms.
All right, thank you very much, my brother. I saw your colleague going through the analysis and then comparing the June results to that of what we have now. There had been a reform in our examination. So this particular one that you have, the records that you have, is the maiden edition of the reform one. And these are, and these are people writing it for the first time. These are the areas we looked at. Initially, they were writing the generic one, which is the numeracy, literacy, essential professional skills. But as we speak, we are now going subject-based. So we examined them based on their area of specialization. And then again, we also examined them on pedagogy, that is methods of teaching, or let's say methodology. And then we also examined them on the general paper, where we had numeracy, literacy, essential professional skills, and general educational policies combined, making it a general paper. And so if we really want to compare, then it's also that these people are doing a different exam altogether. I mean, these results we are seeing, they are doing a different results altogether. And so comparing both, it's somehow not appropriate at this level. So looking at the pass rate, it's still something that we can't boast of because the number is still down. And we wish they could have done better than this. But there are other records to this. You know, we have released 2 of the exams. We had the 2C and then the 2B. So the 2C had to do with those who wrote the receipts and freshers for the old system. Freshers for the old system, they are also there, and their result is also out. So they are the people we can compare the June results to, because they are the same people who took their research, and then a few of them joined as new candidates as well.
It's interesting you're raising this point, but whatever the case might be, the point about, the reform and its effect on, the kind of failure we're seeing now, is this something you're worried about? And how do you intend to address, the issue about the constant failure?
All right, I think it is something we need to be worried about as a nation, because we are talking about teachers coming to handle our future generation. And so if we don't have the right people for the job, as the minimum qualification talks about, then we have a long way to go. So it's a good thing that we are going through this assessment. And it's the same thing that as a country, we also have to pay a particular attention to this and look at how best all of us can come to the table and get this thing resolved, because it's becoming very alarming. If we had seen some of the questions we asked and we are still getting results like this, then it tells you that we need to pay attention to the teacher education as well as the people we admit into our various schools. And again, look at how they got to this level to even be qualified to write this particular examination.
Well, there's a new dynamics that we're equally trying to draw on this, and that's why I want to hear from you, Dr. Peter Antie, who's also joined the conversation. The point about having such a significant level of failure, and yet the outcome of either the basic education exams, government seems to indicate to us that the performance or the output is quite going well, if we should get that message clear. But how do we draw the bearing to know that, well, potentially these are the teachers going into our classrooms and potentially there might be a danger in terms of the output, looking at the fact that the end result is nothing to compare to what the failure is right now, as we can see on the screen?
Thank you very much, Blessed. Yeah, I think you really said it at the latter part of your question, that these are potential teachers. They are not in the classroom yet. And because of that, I think that it is good for us. We talk about quality education. We talk about preparing the children for the future. We talk about developing the human capital base of the country, and that depends on the teacher. So if the teacher who is supposed to handle these kids is not prepared enough adequately to be able to do the things that he's supposed to do to put the child in a certain sphere, which will enable the child function effectively in the community, in the environment, in the society, in this country, then we are doomed. And that is why it's important that when they sit for these exams and some of them are not able to do well, we do not allow them to go ahead and handle our kids. I understand and I know that this is not enough to say that you are getting the best for the profession. But of course, this is a starting point to ensure that the people who are going into the classroom, the potential teachers, are of a certain caliber. And that is why, for me, this is not alarming. It's just an indication to us that we need to do more when it comes to our teacher education. We need to intensify the training we are giving them. And the candidates should also understand that there's a lot of burden on them to justify themselves as they want to pursue the profession called teaching.
I rate teachers in the first place, particularly knowing that they've gone through years of training at the teacher, the colleges of education. And that's been a question, as always, facing the National Teaching Council. The proposition has been made that we scrap this. It's not the most effective way of checking the ability of a teacher to churn out good students.
Yes, you can't just have an open avenue where people walk into a profession. And by our laws, we have designed our system in such a way that there's a body that is giving the mandate to license and register teachers. So you go through the university for 4 years, you do the B.Ed program, or you go through the colleges of education. You are not allowed to walk straight into the profession as you used to be. And for me, this is very important, because if we don't have this kind of sieve system there, we will have these teachers, some of them who are not able to write basic essays about themselves, teaching our kids. So the first point of call is to ensure that at least we have a certain caliber of teachers, caliber of trainees entering into the teaching profession. That does not end there. When they enter the profession, these people are taken through 1 year of induction process, being mentored by experienced teachers exposed to classroom situation. They are supposed to build on the little that they have learned from the school. So you don't just walk into the profession and you are good to go. No, you have 1 year of going through a series of training to enable you fit into the profession and being and understanding somebody who is experienced in the field. After the 1 year, you are given your license. Now, you also need to renew the license. So between the period that you obtain your license and when you renew your license, you are supposed to continuously update your knowledge in the field that you are working.
Okay.
You are supposed to know so many things that are changing in that particular area. So we are doing something right systematically. It's just a matter of allowing the system to flow for some years, and we will reap the benefits of this particular practice that we have put in place.
Dennis, how is the National Teaching Council, welcoming these propositions? Some are asking for a complete scrap of the licensure examination itself. Others feel that you change the approach towards assessing these teachers.
All right. There's one aspect that we need to understand. We are technocrats, and we normally don't involve ourselves in political debates. But one thing that we know for sure is a good policy. Just like Doc said, this had been something that is globally accepted. And because of this introduction of teacher professionalism process in Ghana, Ghana have chalked a lot of successes out there. And our teachers are becoming the most hotcake teachers in Africa. That of Zimbabwe, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa. If you mention a Ghanaian teacher anywhere, that recognition is given, all because of the good work National Teaching Council is doing to make sure we uphold to the principle as far as teacher professionalism process is concerned. And so scrapping it is not the way to go. But we started from somewhere and we are here today. Just like you gave an example that the educational system is gradually changing. We've done this continuously for 5 years. So it tells you that the ones we are getting for the job market is really the right people for the job. And so if we just come out and say, there's no need for that matter, it should be scrapped, then in my opinion, I think we've not been fair to teachers. We need to make sure we get the right people for the job.
Yeah, this is not just a political subject, with all due respect. I mean, we've heard from some teacher unions and groups also raise concerns about the process and the fact that some of their members, have issues with the licensure examination itself. So it's not as though it's entirely a political conversation. We've heard from the teachers as well, some raising concerns with the process.
All right, it's good as stakeholders in this particular field that we find ourselves. It is better for us to dialogue and make sure we look at all the things that we think it's not the best as far as the implementation is concerned. It is something we introduced, and gradually we are moving somewhere. So getting the right people on board, for us, all of us to jaw and then get to the roots, or better still, get the right things in place is the best way to go. But then proposing a scrap is automatically saying that teachers are not to be recognized as professionals, which is not the best way to go. So in my opinion,
are you suggesting that examination is the only way of professionalizing a group of people?
No, I don't know if we can compare other professions, because if people are calling for a scrap for teachers going through licensure examination, there are other professional exams in this same country. They also went through training like teachers. Then we are not being fair to them as well. We want to say that their training system is equally not good. Why only the emphasis on teachers? The thing is, we are doing this just like Doc said. NTC is just a gateway keeper, where whoever wants to enter the system might be somebody who is qualified well enough to go and then teach. At least you have the basic knowledge as far as the teaching profession is concerned. And so we can't just make it like a dumping site where anybody thinks that I want a job to do. So I can go through the training system, have anything done, and then I find myself a job. We need to add some value to the job. And this is the best way to go. To get pre-service teachers into the system, they need to have that standardized test to make sure we get the right people for the job.
So what then, becomes of the final examinations they write at the colleges of education?
Yeah, that is exactly what I compared to the others too. If we agree that nurses also go through training system, so they don't need professional examination, then we can discuss this at the teacher's side too. If you believe that people have done LLB for a whole 4 years, 5 years, and still they need to go through another training system to be recognized as lawyers, then we should also discuss this at the other level too. If architects, if bankers, they all go through these training systems to be able to become professional bankers, then I don't see the need for us to be discussing teachers' topic in this regard. If we really want to professionalize teaching, the law is so simple that whoever wants to join the teaching profession, you have had your initial training, you are a teacher. But for you to be called a professional teacher into the job market, this is what the profession says. You need to go through a standardized test. And when you are through, you can join the mainstream teachers. And I think that is where we are now. But this particular examination that we're talking about, if you've had opportunity to look at it, people would even recommend that we even strengthen this thing, because it has been a blockade for people that they shouldn't have been called even teachers at all to get opportunity to enter the system. So it's rather something that we need to call all Ghanaians to pay particular attention to this. Let's go into the story, see how the best way to go. Is that what is lacking? Why are they failing? What is wrong? What is actually happening? How did they even get to the level of writing professional exam? This is what the exam is bringing this information out, that we expect that the whole nation should rather concentrate, but not to rather bastardize the exam process that have been able to bring some incompetence in some people who had already been in the job market.
Dr. Peter Antie, your take on, the concerns emerging not just from, the political class, but also teachers themselves about the exams.
I think the biggest stakeholder that have raised issues about this exams is the teacher, and that is the Association for the Teacher Trainees. So it's understandable these are people who are supposed to write the exams, and they don't like it. They don't want to write it. They want to enter the profession like our fathers and our forefathers did. They finished colleges of education or training colleges, and they were automatically deployed to go and teach. The system is changing. We are moving. The world is changing. The dynamics in the system demands that the teacher coming out should undergo certain processes before he or she is allowed to enter the classroom. And even when he enters or when she enters, there are systems in place to ensure that the person is fit for purpose. And because of that, we just need to embrace these reforms and then make sure that we streamline it.
But it's not as simple as that, is it? In the case of a trained teacher, someone going through the College of Education, they would have been into the classrooms at least twice, isn't it?
Yes.
In the course of their training, you give them the opportunity to go into the classrooms, to teach as a form of practicals. They do that.
Yes, they do one semester off-campus teaching practice. I'm very much aware.
Yeah, but you introduce them into the classrooms and then ask them to come and write exams just to assess them.
Let me explain, because I train teachers, so I understand the system very well. So this is what happens. When you get to level 300, you do micro teaching, what we call on-campus teaching practice. You get to level 400, the first semester, you go out and then do off-campus teaching practice. You come back to campus and finish your final semester. When you finish, the law is that you are supposed to sit for a licensure exams. And that is for the National Teaching Council, which is a council different from the tertiary institutions and GTEC. They are supposed to register the teachers and license them. They say that we want to ensure that those who we are going to register and license, they are of a certain caliber. You have gone through this training. The curriculum for the colleges and the curriculum for the tertiary institutions are supposed to prepare you to, one, understand your professional practice, to get professional knowledge, and have certain attitudes and values that will enable you function well in the classroom. Can we test and see whether you really have an understanding of these things? And you sit for these papers and you fail. You don't expect the National Teaching Council to register you to go to the classroom because you have failed the basis of the standards that we hold for the teaching profession in this country. And that is why I'm saying that this is not something that anybody should be so much worried about. We are just ensuring that the best are sieved so that they will handle our case in the school. Let me give you a simple example. I'm interested in economics because that is my field. I saw the cons papers. In this country, anybody who completes tertiary education might have done at least 6 years of economics, 3 years at the senior high school, and 4 years at the university or the college, at the university. So 7 years understanding of economics, and you cannot state the law of demand, and you want to go and teach who economics. That is something that is not acceptable. So if the person cannot answer basic economics questions, why should you allow such a person to enter the classroom to go and teach people economics? These are the things we need to discuss and be very frank and open with, so that people will understand that this is not something that is just preventing people from going to the classroom, but we need people who can go and teach our kids very well.
Okay, Clement Par is a member of the Education Committee in Parliament. Is joining us now. Thank you for your time. We've had your leader in not just in Parliament, also the political party you belong to, the NDC, talk about this proposal of your party to scrap the teacher licensure examination next year if you do win the general elections. Now we're seeing, a very massive level of failure. A reason for which the experts are telling us now that indeed we need the licensure examination to ensure or enforce standards. What's your take on that?
Well, first of all, let me say good afternoon to your good self and to our listeners and viewers. Yes, it's indeed the case that the NDC, Don Damani Mama, have repeated a proposal we made for the 2020 election. That given the opportunity by Ghanaians to gather this country, we will abolish the teacher licensure exam, and we will replace that exam with a course to be taught in the teacher training institution. Now, the issue of the mass failure, or if you like, the huge numbers recorded as details in this recently released results and the work for this makes the case as to why our proposal is best suitable. If there is a challenge with the people who produce funded with state resources to become teachers and to help mold the next generation of Ghanaians. The problem cannot be solved at the end of the process. The problem should be tackled within the processes of training. And that is what we are seeking to do. What we are witnessing clearly is a symptom of some deficiencies in the training process itself. For lack of a word, how can anyone convince me that somebody who has gone through a process for 4 years to be trained as a teacher is incapable of passing a professional exam after 4 years of training, an exam that does not take more than 6 months? But the point I'm making is that the challenge must be looked at within the context of the training process, not to wait for them to go to school for 4 years, get a degree, and then we then say they have to take a 4 to 6 hour exam, and then based on that, they pass or fail, and the question I'll have to say, so what are we going to do with them? Are we going to put them away? Are we going to discount them? Is that the best way to utilize the national resource?
And while you raise all of these concerns, are you mindful of, standards?
Well, that is the more reason why we are talking about looking at the training program. If we are going to talk about competencies and the standards, all of that can be dealt within the context of the training process, not when they finish the training. So, our proposal actually would help solve this problem. So, if you are being trained as part of that training, the licensing course is also being taught as part of the other courses that you are expected to take as part of the training. If at the end of your 4-year program, you write all your final year courses, including a compulsory course that would serve as a basis for you to be certified and given the license as a teacher. You pass all of them, instantly you are given your license and you are deployed. If you pass all courses and you face that particular course that should make you a professional, you graduate all right, and you will not be given the license. You have to go back to school and retake it. That is our alternative.
I see. Thank you, Dr. Clement Par, for spending some time with us. Let's hear from Dennis and also Dr. Peter Antie as we wrap up the conversation. Dennis, the point, very critical points about, checking or enforcing standards. Why not start off by looking at entrance, prospective applicants into the various colleges of education? That could be by far one of the most effective aspects of checking who gets into the colleges of education and who's being churned out.
I think one thing that we have done as a council is we've introduced indexing. So with the indexing, immediately you enter any of the training institutions, whether in the university or the college of education, to become a teacher. We pick your details and then monitor your activities on campus and everything you do. But with the issue of trying to add professional exam to the academic exam while on campus, it's not the best way to go. Who judges who watches the watchman? So this is something that is trying to look at the quality assurance of what we are doing as a training institution. And then we are the same people going to examine our people to see whether the process we've gone through is the best way to go. And so we think they can look at it again. But on our part, a professional exam can never be part of academic exam. And that is why I made reference to this. We were talking about 4-year training, whatever training. I want to ask, the other professions in Ghana taking exam like that, don't they go through training system? With nurses, for instance, every break at home, they go for clinicals. After everything, they go for rotation. Still, they write professional examination before they are considered to be nurses. So why are we also not asking them to stop the process because they've gone for 4-year training, they've gone for 3-year training, but only on the part of teachers? So we think the best way to go is rather, if we think we have some gaps anywhere, let's sit as a nation and look at it. But to add a professional exam to an academic exam, he said no-go area. Not at all. That's not the best way to go.
The future of those who are failing the exams now, what happens to them? They
still have the opportunity to write, but just like this conversation has come before for a cutoff point. It is something that we are prepared as part of our LI to put it in a parliament for them to see if it is a possibility for others than in other areas. Then we are good to go. But as we speak, you write on pass.
Okay, Dennis, grateful for your time. Dr. Antie, you want to make any final comments?
I think my senior brother, Dr. Par, should just avert his mind to some of the things that happens on campuses in relation to the training process, because I know that there are courses that are done specifically to prepare the students to write the licensure exams. That is a fact, so we should check that. I also believe that this is the way to go. The system is robust. We just need to sustain it and implement it faithfully for about 10 years, and we see a drastic change in the quality of teachers that will transform into the quality of teaching that happens, leading to quality education, quality outcomes, and our children will be prepared for the future. Okay,
grateful, gentlemen, for joining us here on The Pulse. We're taking a break. When we get back, of course, we'll talk about the finance minister who's now being challenged to come clear on the SML deal. We'll tell you more. Please stay. President Akufo-Addo is fighting off the tag of being a clearing agent of corrupt appointees within his government. Speaking at the launch of the national evaluation of the Anti-Corruption Action Plan here in Accra, the president indicated that his administration is playing by the rule of law and would not shield any of his appointees.
It is important for the rule of law, that the public institutions responsible for the detection, prosecution, and the punishment of corruption, i.e. of crime, be accorded respect until their own conduct is impeached. If that respect is not prima facie accorded, the foundations of orderly government can be easily subverted to the loss and pain of each one of us. That is why so far, every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated by independent bodies such as SRAG, the Criminal Investigation Department of the Police, and in some cases by Parliament itself. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or of engaging in acts of wrongdoing, despite the effort of some to tag me as a clearing agent. That is the job of the courts and the law enforcement agencies. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue or issues to the proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and action, including, if necessary, the suspension of the affected official pending the conclusion of investigations. That is exactly what is being done since I assumed the mantle of leadership on 7th January 2017. From the allegations against the then Minister-designate for Energy, Boachi Ejako, at his parliamentary confirmation hearings in 2017, to that against the former CEO of BOSS, the Honorable Alfred Obeng, to those against the then two Deputy Chiefs of Staff at the Office of the President, the Honorable Francis Asensu Boachi and Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapo, to the conflict of interest allegations against the Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, to the claims of extortion against the then Trade and Minister Industry Designate, Alan Shamateng, at his parliamentary confirmation hearings in 2017, to allegations of doubling in visa racketeering against the then Deputy Minister for Youth and Sports, Pius Hajije, and the then Director General of the National Sports Authority, Honorable Robert Safo-Mensah, who, even though exonerated by the CID, later resigned, and the Chairperson of the Board of the National Sports Authority, the Honorable Kwadwo Ba-Ajiman, to the allegations of bribery leveled against the Secretary to the Interministerial Committee on Illegal Mining, Charles Bisu, to those involving the dismissed acting CEO of the Public Procurement Authority, PPA, A.B. Ajay, and the dismissed CEO of the National Youth Authority, Emmanuel Asigri. They have all been investigated, in most cases cleared by the authorized institutions of our state and not by President Akufo-Addo. No evidence or allegation has been forthcoming that the executive, i.e. myself as president, has made any attempt to influence the outcome of any of these investigations. The latest episode involving the former Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, the Honorable Cecilia Abnadapa, is evident for all to see. I am not aware of any government in the Fourth Republic subjecting so many of its officials to such investigations and inquiries. At the same time, several officials of the previous Mahama administration, such as William Matthew Tete Tevi and Haji Salifu Mimaina Osman and Eugene Bafo Boni, in the infamous $4 million United States dollar NCA scandal, have been tried and convicted of various corruption-related offenses, and several others, including Dr. Stephen Upuni, the former CEO of Cocoa Board, and the Honorable Cassiel Atoforson, the minority leader in Parliament, are standing trial as we speak. Ladies and gentlemen, after almost 10 years of implementing NACAP, there is a need to understand how the action plan has contributed to reducing corruption in Ghana. and to make necessary adjustments to our policies and institutional arrangements based on the evaluation results. The evaluation is important to assess the contribution of NACAB to the fight against corruption in all spheres and to form the basis of developing our next NACAB, i.e. NACAB 2, 2025 to 2034. The above underscores the importance of the evaluation exercise, and I call on all stakeholders to support its success.
President Akufo-Addo has also stated that the country has made remarkable progress in the fight against corruption under his administration.
It is also an undeniable fact that budgetary allocation for institutions actively engaged in public sector accountability, that is the Office of the Auditor General, the Judiciary, Parliament, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, the Ghana Police Service, the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EYOCO, and the Financial Intelligence Center have witnessed unprecedented increases since I assumed office in 2017. At the end of 2022, the budgetary allocation to Parliament witnessed a 100% increase compared to what I inherited in 2016. The police saw its budget increase by 274% at the end of 2022 in comparison to 2016. The Audit Service recorded a 258% rise in its budgetary allocation at the end of 2022 as compared to 2016. The budget of the judiciary rose by 36% at the end of 2022 compared to 2016. The budget of the Office of the Attorney General increased by 162% at the end of 2022 compared to 2016. The budget of EYOCO increased by 47% at the end of 2022 in comparison to 2016. The budget of the Financial Intelligence Center increased by 443% compared to 2016, whilst the budget of SRAJ increased by 99% at the end of 2022 compared to 2016. These figures reflect my resolve to ensure that institutions of state of relevance in the anti-corruption agenda are properly equipped to discharge satisfactorily the mandate of their offices. The system of governance our nation has been operating for the last 30 years, which has largely been grounded on the application of democratic values, the operation of a strong private sector-dominated market economy, respect for individual liberties and human rights, the rule of law, the separation of powers, and a free media has made a significant contribution to the fight against corruption. It has demanded of public officials higher levels of acceptable conduct in office and made it easier for public scrutiny to be directed at the behavior of public officials. The media has been empowered by the system to take a bold stance on the issue of corruption and be fearless in its exposure. The benefits of an open society are evident in the fight against corruption. There is one development, however, which I consider unfortunate, and that is the tendency for allegations of corruption in the public domain to be conclusive in themselves. In other words, the outcome of investigations into the allegations do not dispel them. Once an allegation is made against you, automatically you are guilty. I deprecate such a development because it flies in the face of due process and the rule of law, which require establishment of proof before the allegation is substantiated and granted belief.
And our pressure is mounting on the finance minister to provide full disclosure on the controversial $100 million a year revenue assurance contract to the Strategic Mobilization Limited SML after more contradictions emerged in the Ghana Revenue Authority's justification. Private legal practitioner and energy analyst Kwame Jantua has questioned the silence of the finance ministry. The minority in parliament insists that the Ghana Revenue Authority's explanation only confirms the need to immediately cancel the contract and fully investigate the circumstances surrounding the finance minister's decision to direct the expansion of the questionable revenue assurance contract to SML. There's more in the following report.
These comments follow a documentary titled The 3 Billion Cedi Lie by the Fourth Estate, alleging that the finance ministry ordered an expansion of the SML contract for 10 years, estimating it could yield the company $100 million annually. The documentary also claims that the expansion was directed despite the company making false claims about its savings through revenue assurance in the downstream sector. The GRA had backed SML's initial claim that it saved Ghana more than 3 billion cedis. The GRA backing comes despite the MD of the company, Christian Soti, denying the company saved the state that much.
That's why that 3 billion, I'm not. That's why I told you from the beginning. I said I don't know about this 3 billion.
We cannot say your intervention saved 3 billion.
No, I said 3 billion. I'm not. I've told you that I'm not aware, because when we were told about the publication, we even called the.
As we speak this morning, it's still on your website.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In fact, to be honest, I don't even know website matter.
Within SML itself, there are contradictions on this subject of the 3 billion cedi savings. This week, head of IT, Prince Sapong, contradicted publicly his boss.
So in estimate, what actually happened with the 3 billion is, as I talked about, the money is all about the volumes. So if there's an increase in volume, there's an increase in revenue. And since SML started operation, we can confidently say that there has been an average monthly increase of 100 million liters. So if you multiply it by 24 months, with the tax component that we are not even using the 1.74, we are using the old tax component, which is 1.44, that will arrive at the 3 billion that we talked about.
This current position of the head of IT contradicts his own earlier assertions when the Fourth Estate first put the question to himself and his boss during the investigations.
What we did was not even the accurate figure. We never talked about accuracy because we are not GRA. Only GRA can give you accurate figure. So when we are talking about this, it depends on how it was reported. So it didn't, no one actually said that we actually generated as like accurate. Yes. So there's a caption by a journalist.
The GRA claims in a statement that SML is only paid if there is value addition. However, the contract specifies that SML is not required to add value to the upstream petroleum and gold sectors. It will be paid as long as production takes place, receiving 0.75 cents per barrel of the 160,000 barrels of oil Ghana produces daily. Additionally, SML will receive 0.75% of the total gold production, amounting to about $50 million annually, based on 2022 gold production figures. The GRA claims they signed a 5-year contract, but the Fourth Estate says the contract they referred to had a 10-year agreement and may have been updated. Listen to lead investigator Manasseh Azuri-Awuni.
Some documents which I'm also sharing. I think page 13 of the 54-page contract mentioned 10 years. If they have reviewed it to 5 years, we requested documents officially from them. They have not responded to us. But if they have reviewed it, it doesn't change the fact that for the next 5 years, SML will be making more than $100 million.
These inconsistencies, among others, between the GRA, SML, and the contract documents raise concerns about value for money and transparency, increasing public pressure on authorities to clarify the contract details. John Jenapo, ranking member on the Mines and Energy Committee in Parliament, insists the contract is suspicious and should be terminated.
Why isn't the finance minister saying anything? Why is he silent?
Well, the GRA is an agency under the finance ministry. So if the GRA has spoken, isn't it the finance ministry directly?
No. I don't buy that. Who gave them the contract? Was it GRA who gave them the contract? GRA is party to the contract, but the institution that gave them the contract was the Ministry of Finance. It wasn't the GRA.
Meanwhile, private legal practitioner Kwame Jantua has challenged the finance ministry to clarify the conflicting facts about the contract.
This contract, by all intents and purposes, whether you fry it, whether you cook it, whether you earn it, it's a bad contract, it's inimical, it doesn't add any value, and I hold the view that this contract, if allowed to continue, would only enrich the pockets of some few greedy individuals. It must be abolished without delay.
And the district level elections resumes today after voting in certain electoral areas in the Ashanti and parts of the Eastern region were put on hold by the Electoral Commission. There's more.
Low voter turnout once again characterized this year's district level elections across the country, and the Techiman South constituency is not an exception, with some electoral areas recording as low as 20% turnout. Techiman Municipal EC officer William Apori Banfo disclosed to Joy News that the situation is even worse in the main Techiman township compared to the rural and inner cities, where turnouts exceeded 50% across some electoral areas.
Largely was successful. There were no chaos, no challenges anywhere. However, the turnout is exactly what wasn't encouraging. Especially looking at looking at the township itself as Techiman, we could say that the turnout was below par, just about 20. Some were making 20%, others 30%. But should you go to the rural areas, the inner city within Techiman, for instance, the Zongo areas like Hausa Line, Dagoma Line, Konimase, Wangara Line, you know, the turnout was quite huge as well. Some went past 50%. So,
out of a total of 88 aspirants, only 5 were females, out of which 1 was elected to represent her electoral area, and this represents 3% of the total assembly members elect.
We had about 88 persons aspiring to become assembly members out of 32 electoral areas. Out of just about 5 women that aspire to become district assembly members, only 1 came up at top or elected, and that person is in Nkrankrom. She is a teacher in Nkrankrom, and actually she is the incumbent.
Mr. William Apori is, however, impressed with the security arrangements throughout the exercise, adding that the presence of the security leadership throughout the electoral process is an indication that the 2024 general elections will be held without chaos.
Should you compare this election to the 2020 election, you can say that by far, or even to the 2019 district level election, you can say that by far, this is the best election you might have experienced here in Techiman or in the Blue East region. Not even a single chaos anywhere. Security was top-notch. We had all the security couples all over. Once I saw them, I was so impressed, because to have these 2 big men for divisional actually supervising exactly what was happening at the center, that speaks a lot about security here in Techiman now.
He also lauded the aspirants for their cooperation, adding that their actions contributed to the peaceful nature of the exercise.
121.
Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
And we have a bit of a breaking news for you. The majority side of the House has lost a vote which will see, or would have seen, a 2 billion Ghana cedis approval to the Finance Ministry. We can now cross you over to Parliament, where our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante is joining us with more on this. Kweku, what more can you report about what's happening in the House now?
Yes, there was this crucial vote for the approval of 2 billion Ghana cedis for the Finance Ministry to spend in 2024. The minority raised significant issues with that. In particular, the minority leader and the ranking member, as well as the minority chief whip, have been raising issues with the contract with SML and argue that this is a ministry that has completely been reckless in its expenditure so far and does not deserve to be given 2 billion Ghana cedis, which is literally like a blank check for the Finance Ministry to spend in 2024. And so there was such a spirited debate on the minority side. On the majority side, there was no debate. Apart from the chairman of the Finance Committee presenting the report, no one from the majority side actually spoke to this budget and the request to have it approved. Ultimately, it went to a vote, and when the vote did happen, the Speaker of Parliament did first put a voice vote, asked for ayes, the majority side shouted, and the minority side, the voices of the minority actually outnumbered that from the majority. The Speaker of Parliament, this time the second deputy speaker actually presided, Andrew Amakwesiama, he said that to put the question again, and so he put the question for the second time, a voice vote again, which was again lost by the majority in terms of the Southern. And you could clearly see from the chamber that there were more minority MPs, NDC MPs, more of them than their colleagues from the NPP side came here. And so the Speaker of Parliament, Andrew Amakwesiama, decided to do something spectacular. He decided that he was not going to declare the vote on the Finance Ministry's budget. What he was going to do was to suspend sitting for an hour and then let the House come again. This is what the minority said they are interpreting as a strategy by the second deputy speaker to give the majority enough time to get more of their colleagues inside, and then he can come and put the question again, and this time around they will be hoping to win this. But the minority are quite clear in their minds that the Finance Ministry does not deserve 2 billion Ghana cedis to spend. In fact, our live view is live. You can see the timber. If you can just check the connection. But it is a number of MPs currently still on the floor. There's a lot of doorway. At the time this vote happened, majority leader of Chairman Owusu was not in the chamber. I've just seen him walk in. He's come to talk with the minority leadership. They have also left the chamber as we speak. They've gone to their offices. But there are still a sizable number of MPs who are still in the chamber trying to have a dialogue to try and see how to break this deadlock. I saw early on Abner Siasari, the Deputy Finance Minister, walk over to the minority side to try and get somebody, try and get them to stop this idea of rejecting the Finance Ministry's budget, and she did not succeed. The voice vote still happened, and the government side lost. Only that the Deputy Speaker, the second Deputy Speaker, Andrew Amakwesiama, refused to declare the vote and suspended sitting for an hour. So the House is currently suspended for an hour, and the expectation is that in an hour time when the House reconvenes, the question will be put again on the Finance Ministry's budget, and then a decision will be taken. And the minority say, if the voice vote happens again, and the Deputy Speaker declares that they have lost, they are going to call for a decrease in the headcount like they did over the budget itself some few weeks back.
Well, what's been the reaction from the majority side so far?
Well, the majority side haven't spoken to this issue. They have not organized any news conference of a sort. We're expecting that was going to happen, but that hasn't quite happened yet. Ultimately, this is a numbers game, and so the whips would have to get to work. Makanodompre, who is the majority chief whip, has not been in the House since about 11 o'clock, thereabout. He was here from the morning, but he left to go and do other things. And so he, together with Habib Idris, who is his deputy, are going to try and ring up every majority MP to come from wherever they are, to come back to the floor for a vote, because this is so crucial. This is the Finance Ministry. They are usually the holder of the purse. They decide which money goes where, and they themselves are struggling to get 2 billion cedis. Early on, there was big controversy on the Office of Government Machinery, the large Office of the President's budget. There was about 2 billion. This time around, the Office of the President got their 2 billion, but the minority raised a lot of concerns about what they call reckless and irresponsible expenditure. But the majority side still has their way despite the concerns the minority raised, only to get to the Finance Ministry, and then a lot more NDC MPs had come into the chamber, and they just had that upper hand and have been able to sort of, for the time being, defeat the estimate from the Finance Ministry. Only that the Deputy Speaker has not declared that. So officially, in the records of Parliament, that hasn't happened. Officially, the Finance Ministry's budget estimate has not been defeated officially. It is still on the other platform, a decision to be taken. Happy with this has just walked in, looking around, doing a lot of counting, making a lot of phone calls, frantic phone calls, going all over in the chamber to try and get as many NPP MPs to come to the floor to outnumber the NDC MPs to ultimately pass the finance ministry budget. But blessed, it's a numbers game. Which side is able to bring their numbers to the floor, they get it. If you are not able to bring the numbers to the floor, then this status quo may remain. And this is not a situation that the finance ministry will be very happy about, to get their 2 billion Ghana cedis rejected.
I see. So in about an hour, what will happen, knowing that, of course, the voice vote, that process has been exhausted now, or perhaps we'll get back to the voting process again?
The understanding is that there's going to be another voice vote because, like you have there, the Deputy Speaker, Andrew Amakwesiama, did not declare the vote. He did not declare whether the ayes had it or the noes had it. What he decided to do was to say that I've deferred decision on this and I'm suspending sitting for an hour. And so when he comes back, the expectation will be that he will put the voice vote again, but the minority are likely going to protest that. They're going to say that the last time we put the voice, we won it, we just did not declare. And so declares, at least the majority side would want to put it to a head count so that they can count individual MPs and they can do so. And so it is really up to the leadership of the House, together with the Deputy Speaker, to decide what form this decision is going to take. But our understanding is that the minority are going to insist that the voice vote, as has been just called a few minutes back, will be declared. And then if the majority are minded to call for a head count or any other form of division, then they can do so. But as far as they are concerned, this is the voice vote they have won, and they want the Deputy Speaker to declare that. In fact, when the Speaker suspended sitting for an hour, a lot of them were remembering a lot of shouts all over that. Why are you doing that? You need to declare this immediately, and that this is just a ploy to go and get a lot more majority MPs to come and then defeat the minority. But in an hour time, there's a lot that we are going to see, and if the majority are able to bring in their numbers, then ultimately they get to approve this 2 billion Ghana cedis for the finance ministry to spend in 2024.
Okay. How about the speakers of the House? We know that this is the second Deputy Speaker. There's the first Deputy Speaker.
Yes, the Speaker himself started proceedings today. He was the one in the chair when this started this morning. At some point, he had to depart for his second deputy to take over the chair because he said he had some equally important duties to actually go back to. And so he did leave the chamber at the time to go and do that. There was, since then, the Deputy Speaker has been presiding. The first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Owusu, I've not seen him in the chamber today. He has not come in the chamber at all. I've not seen his age and anything of the sort. I don't know if he's still around or not. But he's probably very busy with the appointment committee report. Yesterday, they vetted 3 judges. They have to finalize their report and present it either today or tomorrow. Mind you, the House is adjourning for Christmas tomorrow, so that report has to be finalized and presented in the House. That may be the reason why Joe White is not on the floor. But the Speaker himself, from all the indications that we've seen over some of the things he does, when he is in office, he keeps an eye on what is exactly happening in the chamber. So this is a controversy he may want to put himself in the middle of, to try and come here and preside over this. And so it will not be any surprise if the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin himself, decide that upon the House resuming from this 1 hour break, he will decide to take the chair himself and govern the House in session. If the Deputy Speaker himself comes again to continue, then the minority are going to continue in their resistance to this 2 billion for the finance ministry.
All right, quick question, Auntie. They're giving us the latest as to this voice vote. Apparently, that's been lost by the majority side of the House. The Speaker is yet to declare the results, so it's likely that another round of the voting would have to take place. You're watching the polls. We'll be right back. Back to the district level elections, which resumes today after voting in certain electoral areas in the Ashanti and Eastern regions, which has been rescheduled due to technical challenges faced by the Electoral Commission. Despite the Electoral Commission's effort to achieve 60% participation, some polling stations recorded low voter turnout. Let's touch base with our correspondent on the ground for us, Emmanuel Bright-Kweku, who's joining us from the Mencha South constituency in the Ashanti region. Emmanuel, bring us up to speed with what's happening.
Constituency to gauge the mood here. What is currently running through the region is that there has been low turnout at most of the polling centers across the region. When I went to Meisha South, it wasn't quite impressive. Even here at the Amedia Primary School, it's not quite impressive. But I'll quickly interact with my colleague Clinton Yeboah. He has been monitoring situations in the Ofori-Krom constituency. Also, we understand that in the Ashanti region, over 200 electoral areas were actually exempted from Tuesday's exercise. And so today, they are partaking in this particular exercise. But Clinton, you have been monitoring situations in the Ofori-Krom constituency. Tell us what has really happened over there.
Okay, so I've been touring the Ofori-Krom constituency. Ofori-Krom constituency is one of the densely populated constituencies, and so one would expect that ordinarily there should be huge numbers of voters. But when I went, I could find that the place was literally empty. So per my conversation, in fact, the particular station that I went to is Kote RC Basic School. The Kote RC Basic School has 4 polling stations, polling station 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so I had a conversation with the presiding officer who explained that, yes, the voter turnout is very, very low. And the reasons that he, according to her, has been given by some voters are that most of them came on Tuesday to vote. And the situation were not so juicy for them, and so they went back. And so they have closed their minds of any incident or the possibility of it happening at all. And so they never expected that the voting would come on today. And so that is why they are recording voter turnout. Aside from that, people would come there but would not find their names in the register. Apart from the fact that there is an electronic voting system that is supposed to capture everyone, people have not been able to be verified, and so they are either directed to the other polling station. Remember that they have 4 polling centers, and so they are directed to the other 3 polling centers. And when they find that their names are not in the list of any of the 3, then they have no choice but to get back home. And so the voters who have already voted that I engaged were explaining. I mean, they are actually entreating that we have a physical kind of verification that would not demand so much of the electronic voting, such that when you come to vote and the machine verifies that you can vote. Apart from that, there should be some kind of physical indication that you have voted, because I mean, you cannot trust machines 100%. So that has been the comments coming from those who have already voted. And so, and for those who have not already voted, it's just an issue of apathy. They do not see development in the community, and so they find no reason to vote. And also, they are discouraged by the fact that they will come to the voting center and not find their names there. And so they are not going to wait for, I mean, a magic to be conjured for their names to appear in the list.
Okay, all right, so that's my colleague Clinton Yeboah. He has been monitoring situations at the Ofori-Krom constituency, and as you rightly heard him, the voter turnout has not been quite impressive, and we understand that even despite the voter turnout being not impressive, beginning in the morning when elections were actually supposed to start around 7 a.m. in some electoral areas due to delays in the voting materials arriving at the centers, some of the electorates had to move out. They waited close to an hour, and voting started around 9:30 a.m. So they had to move out, and since then they have not been able to come to the center to vote. But I'll quickly interact with the presiding officer for this particular area, this voting center. That is the the Amedia Primary School electoral or polling center. Sir, good afternoon. I want to find out from you, how has the voter turnout been so far for you?
Okay, right now it's been low since morning. It's about 50 people who has come and vote.
Okay, so but how many do you expect?
We are expecting 344 voters, but as at now we have 50.
As of now, getting to almost this time around in the evening, with the polls getting close, we are only having 50 people come.
50 people coming.
Okay,
so but we are expecting more.
Okay.
To come.
Okay, but do you have any reasons, or do you know any reasons why they are not coming?
We don't know. Maybe as it was postponed, that may be the case. So as at now, we don't know why.
On Tuesday, were you here?
I was here on Tuesday, but there were no turnout. I mean, the ballot papers were not ready, so we have to go back.
But did you have some people come around?
People came around to check if they can vote, but there were nothing for them to.
Okay. So when you compare the numbers from, let's say, Tuesday and then even today, do you think that Tuesday there could have been a better turnout as compared to today?
By all means, it have been better than today.
All right, sure. So that's the presiding officer here at the TI Amedia polling center. He's been telling us that the numbers have also not been quite impressive. They can't really ascertain why people are not turning up. But what we understand is that today being the last market day for the year ahead of the Christmas festivities, most people would prefer to cash in during this particular period than to come to the voting center and then cast their ballots. But I have a polling.
Well, let's stay a little longer on the district level elections because there are concerns about the politicization of the process. The Center for Decentralization on Advocacy conducted a research on this, and of course the lead coordinator, Kuja Ferry, was joining us in studio with more of this. Thank you, sir, for your time. What did you find in your data?
Thank you. So we did a survey before the elections and then after the elections. For about 3 months now, we've been following up and tracing people who registered to contest for the District Assembly election as Assemblymen Unit Committee members. I think there were over 8,000 people across the country and contesting in over 6,200 electoral areas across the country we're going to contest. You remember that there have been concerns about the local government system. DCs, some people wanted DCs to be elected. Some also have having concerns as to the two major parties in particular getting so actively involved in this local government election process. So we decided to conduct this survey to be able to establish as indeed if they are involved or not. So what we try to do is to identify individuals who live within these electoral areas. Some are teachers, nurses, people who are able to give us credible information, who we identified across all these electoral areas. We needed to do so because they needed to be able to identify the individuals, and since they also live in the same electoral areas, so whether they know them or not, and to be able to establish their quote-unquote political affiliations. So we have pro-NDCs, pro-MPPs, and of course we have neutrals. So these, our members across the electoral areas were able to give us information.
So what did you find?
We realized that, okay, so we had already put out the data that there were most of these, about over 80% of the people who were going to contest, were either pro-NDCs or pro-MPPs. First, they've been identified by our agents on the ground. And two, we also used their campaign materials, the coding they've used in their campaign materials to be able to establish whether they are pro-MPP or they are pro-NDCs. It's interesting that if you pick the figures that we got, based on their registration at the EC and based on the identity of the individuals that we've been able to establish, you'll be able to tell that even in the regional distributions, you'll be able to, like in Ashanti region, for instance, you have a lot of pro-NPPs.
So what's unlawful about that? The Constitution does not bar people who belong to political parties from contesting at the local level, except the caveat is that you do not come on the ticket of a political party.
Well, so let me give you an example. If you have a regional chairman of a political party, you have a constituency communication officer of a political party, you have a regional organizer of a political party, you have coordinate ward chairman of a political party standing in as assemblymen or contesting as assemblymen.
But not on the ticket of their political parties.
Well, they would not be able to mention that, but you know them. So, like I'm saying,
that's why I'm asking what's unlawful about it. The law says so you can contest, except that you. Then
what it means is that we are having the politicians now entering in the realm that we thought was going to be for neutrals, because definitely if you have a regional chairman or a ward chairman or electoral area chairman. Being an assemblyman, everybody would know that this assemblyman is NPP or is NDC. So perhaps they might not be able to say they are NPP or assemblymen, but it's easy to say they are pro-NPP assemblymen. It's easy to say they are pro-NDC assemblymen. So they've already entered the arena. We think that if you're looking, and not just they as individuals, it's actually becoming reflective of the patterns of our elections. If you check our data we put out on Monday, you would see it has a semblance of the 2020 elections.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You even look, and these are the people who have just registered. You're just using individuals from their respective parties who have gone to the EC to want to contest for the assemblyman. If you use the share figures alone, you would notice that we have in the, over 8,000 people from who are pro-NPP, same number from pro-NDC, who are pro-NDC contesting, and we have in a hung parliament. So if you have numbers which are similar to the situations we have, that is one. Number two, pick the regions. Central region, Greater Accra region are swing regions. If you pick the same number of people, the number of people who registered to contest, you realize that it's almost balanced between the pro-MPPs and the pro-NDCs. However, if you go to the Volta region, you realize that there are a few pro-MPP people who had registered to contest, and majority of the people contesting are NDC. Clearly, the MPP knows that they wouldn't be able to make much inroads in the region.
So what is this your work seeking to achieve now, and what problem will it tackle?
Well, we think that as a nation we need to come clear and accept that the politicization of our electoral process, whether it's been national, it has sunk down to our local government. And if we're accepting it, then let's regularize it, amend the necessary legislation, and ensure that it's being contested as such. We think that it will help with transparency in the system. Two, it also then open the local government system for others to be able to offer some constructive information or ideas as to how it is going to be. Example, I live in Kumkatamanso area. If my assemblyman, I know his political affiliation and he's not working well, I would know how to channel my information. Mind you, most people don't even know their assemblymen, because ordinarily we pick them to be just individuals. But if we know that the assemblyman here is MPP or is NDC, if we don't know him, we'll know how to find him.
All right. Well, I'm sure that this is just the beginning. We'll definitely have more time to talk about this, but we're grateful so much for joining us with this latest report. But even before we wrap up, Germany's foreign minister traveled to Kigali to unveil Africa's first mRNA vaccine production facility. DW's correspondent Thomas Sparrow traveled with the foreign minister to Rwanda. Joins us now with more. Thomas, thanks for spending some time with us. Why exactly did the German foreign minister take part in this unveiling of the vaccine production facility in Africa?
The German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock travelled to Kigali, to Rwanda, specifically to take part in the unveiling of this vaccine production facility that was the most important element in her trip to Rwanda. And by the way, she was not the only foreign dignitary to attend this very important unveiling. There were several African heads of state, the leaders of Rwanda, the leaders of Senegal, of Ghana, as well as the European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. And the importance of having the German foreign minister there has to do with the fact that Germany has supported this idea of having an African vaccine production plant. And in fact, it is a German company, BioNTech, that has put this production plant in place. So for Germany, it was important to be there in Kigali, in Rwanda, and to mark this moment, which is definitely an important moment for Africa. This is the first mRNA vaccine production plant in Africa. There are already plans for several others, including in countries like Senegal and South Africa.
The question is, why is it important, in Germany's view, to help, for instance, African countries with such facility?
Essentially because the recent coronavirus pandemic revealed that there is inequality in terms of vaccine production and distribution. The German foreign minister, as well as other leaders, were clear that so far only 1% of vaccines that are actually used in Africa are actually produced in Africa. And that is something that African leaders, in particular from the African Union, would like to change, to have 60% of vaccines needed in Africa, produced in Africa by 2040. And this specific production plant in Kigali, in Rwanda, is one significant step towards that goal. Now, it is also a very ambitious goal. It is a challenging goal as well, but it is the view of the German foreign minister and the other leaders there that it's important to have this as an initial, very important step towards achieving that goal.
Thomas Barrow, thank you for the latest. And that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm Blessed, so we're going to log on to myjoyonline.com. More stories for you on that song.